on harmony. Harmony is, I've learnt in the last 20 years since I've been working extensively in China, a central concept and value in Chinese civilization. What Confucius and other philosophers of China advocated was that we should live in harmony with other people, that we should adjust our relationships. They needn't be necessarily equal relationships, so you'd have relations of the father to a son, the emperor to his people, men to women. They might be unequal, but they were harmonic. That is, there was to be no strife, no war, no tension in that relationship. That was the ideal, and it's an ideal in other forms of Chinese philosophy too, in Chinese Buddhism and in Taoism, harmony with nature. Man and nature should live in harmony. So if you had to have one philosophical principle that unites most of the great philosophies of China, then it is harmony, man in harmony with the world and with his neighbours and his family. Of course, you often fail and get disputes and tensions, but the goal and aim is to aim at harmony. And the picture I have taken from some analogies would be that Chinese civilization is like a forest where you have different trees, different people in different positions, different statuses and roles, but they all grow alongside each other and share the same space in a mutually supportive way as the trees do in my woodland here. So you have oaks and ashes and others all growing and competing a little bit for space and light and so on, but on the whole not destroying each other. So that kind of harmony is to be advocated. Or again, in the classic example of harmony, which is in music, you have different instruments which preserve their individuality. The piano remains a piano, the violin a violin, but they have their allotted roles. So in a concert, in a symphony or a string quartet, each one plays its notes, but there is a harmonic intersection of them, and so they don't overlay each other or destroy each other or in any way inhibit the others. And that kind of harmony seems to be a wonderful model for what the world could be, because we now live in an extremely interconnected environment. We see this all the time. It's interconnected, obviously, economically, so that one upset in one place in the supply chain and everything else is affected. Or we see it, obviously, in communications, in that we are just one click of a button away from watching film or communicating with people all over the world. We are interconnected in the flow of people, in that many societies now have a great deal of multiculturalism and people from all over the world living side by side. So we are faced with, as it were, a symphony in which you have many different instruments living side by side, many different ideas and cultures coming together. And you can treat that either by constant friction and contesting, or by trying to keep these things out, trying to put up barriers, trying to keep people from other cultures or other ideas you don't like, or cutting the supply chains. That's one approach. I think, firstly, it's too late, and secondly, it's not a good idea. The richness of my life and the world is created by differences combined with similarity. It's created by the recognition that we're all human beings, that we have very similar needs, desires, very similar emotions. Our minds work in identical ways, and therefore we should be tolerant of the surface differences. And that, as an anthropologist, is what I've tried to do. I've tried to understand the other trees, as it were, other people and other cultures and civilizations, other periods in history, in order not to cut them down or lop off their limbs, but to relish the differences and to see how I can learn from them and how one can live with these differences in some kind of productive harmony. It all sounds all too good to be true, but of course it is the aim of all the great philosophies and religions. Christianity preaches that kind of tolerance, as does Buddhism, and I see it as an ideal. We will constantly fail in the pursuit of the ideal, no doubt, but harmony, and what I've learnt from China in particular, is now something I think I've learnt over my life, the value of this and the need for all of us to find a way which is not about clashes of civilizations or whatever, but the harmony and well-being of civilizations.